Chicago, Jeff Gordon.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Jeff, for being here. I'm Dan Gibbons, and on behalf of the City Club, especially stand up, please, as you're there standing. Omar Dagestani is our chair of our board. Thank you, Omar, and on behalf of the City Club of Chicago, and kind of on behalf of Chicago, I'm going to say, welcome to Chicago. I thought the way that maybe we could start and frame the conversation is if I can introduce kind of us to you. Does that sound all right?
Sure, absolutely.
And then we can probably help us guide how what we get into in our conversation. And as Julie may have told you, City Club we convene civic leaders from all different sectors. So we've got business leaders, we have government. In fact, we have a number of aldermen here. Alderman Chico is here, Alderman Robinson is here, Representative Tarver is here, Senator Peters is here. There we go. So a round of applause, our elected officials. If I missed any electeds, speak up. Okay. Oh, Alderman Robinson. Did I say? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we've got government. We've got nonprofits and civic organizations, chambers of commerce. Jack Lavin is here from the Chamber of Commerce. Kristen Reynolds from Choose Chicago. Business leaders, philanthropists. John Simpson is here. The Morano family is here. Frankie Ruffalo. Thank you to Frank Ruffalo and Il Culicino, of course, the restaurant, for hosting us today. And one of our favorite, relatively new business leaders, Julie Giese from NASCAR. We love Julie. So what we really do here is bring all these folks together. And when you bring people like this together from different sectors and in different parts of Chicago, shit happens.
Yeah.
know?
Well, we love it when shit happens. But let me just say it's a pleasure to be here. I know I had a chance to meet many of you, but it's a pleasure to officially meet all of you. And thank you for coming out tonight. I mean, this is this is a very special city to NASCAR, especially with what they've accomplished the last couple of years, and what again is going to be an amazing event coming up in July. And so, and Julie's been a dear friend of mine for many years. We've done a lot of great things together in the sport. And so, anytime I get a call from Julie, it's like, how can we go do something fun? And she introduces happy hour in Chicago to me. So thank you, Julie. But no, it's a pleasure to be here.
Like I like to say, Chicago. We like our numbers in Chicago, right? And those that certain folks that are synonymous with one number. We got a 23. I don't know if you ever heard of a guy named Michael Jordan. There's a 35 in Frank Thomas. What do we got? We got a 44 in President Obama.
No 24s? No 24?
So, I mean, now we have a new pope, that Leo, he's 14, so we're just calling him 14. These are all Chicago legends.
My son's name is Leo, so, he's enjoying what's happening over there in, St. Peter's.
Yeah, how about it? We need his help on a number of fronts, including some of the sports. But really, it's an honor to have you 24. You're the man, the myth, the legend, number 24, synonymous with that number. There's so many fans here, and of the sport. But really, we're all fans of Chicago. And I think what we want to do is just talk a little bit about Chicago and then a little bit about you, and marry it together. And business. Now you're in the business of this. We all know of your career in driving. But let's start with Chicago. NASCAR came here 3 years ago. It was not an easy feat to get it here, and we're so proud. And thanks, by the way, to Kara Bachman and the Chicago Sports Commission, because these events are really. The sport is a huge part of our economy, of our identity as a city. Our international reputation and really our future as a city. So anyway, I wanted to set that all up and then kick it off by asking you to talk a little bit about Chicago and NASCAR's expansion here and what it means.
Yeah, and listen, we're like you, we're looking for business opportunities. Our business is selling partnerships and sponsorships and going and competing and winning races and championships. And they all go hand in hand, right, with what happens on television through the TV networks and the broadcasting, and then what happens in each race facility that we go to. And you're always looking for new opportunities, new growth, younger fans, newer fans, fans from all over. And you need unique venues to be able to do that. So it wouldn't have really been possible for many, many people people in this room and NASCAR and Julie and so many others, but it wouldn't have been possible if we didn't have the race car that we have today. About 4 or 5 years ago, we transitioned to a new generation of race car that was so synonymous with racing on oval tracks. And yeah, we did some road racing, but we could have never raced on the streets. It didn't have big enough brakes, didn't have enough gear selection, didn't have independent rear suspension. It's just didn't have the underwing to get some of the downforce. The cars probably weren't even robust enough to be able to handle some of the things that you need on a street course. And so to me, when that car was introduced, I think that's when the wheels started turning of where can we go with this race car and what can we do with it? And then that opened up the door and ideas of, hey, we've seen other racing series do street courses. What about NASCAR? So, all these things have to take place, right, to put the event on, to get it to reality. But then once the event is here, you got to put on a good show. And we have a car now that's capable of doing that. So the timing was just right, in my opinion, to be able to do that.
One of your cars put on a pretty good show last year, right?
They did, yes. We were in desperate need of a win for Alex Bowen and that 48 Ally Chevrolet, and they came through and got it, put them into the playoffs. So timing was great. I mean, this event, year one, I know we've been hit with some tough weather, but what's interesting about road racing in general is wet weather road racing is really exciting. You can't have standing water and up to your
epic
calves,
biblical rains.
But if you have a wet track and we have wet weather tires, our cars are capable of racing in the wet. Again, part of this new car that is more adaptable to those kinds of conditions. But the most exciting type of racing is not only the slick conditions on a street course with wet tires and wet racing, but it's the drying surface or the changing conditions constantly that makes it unique and interesting. Changes strategy, shows drivers versatility to search for different lines. So we actually had that last year where now, the track was wet, then it was drying, and who's going to go onto the slick tires first? We see this in Formula One and some other track series. You just haven't seen a lot in NASCAR. We saw that, last year, and it was really exciting.
We have a really strong tradition, just talking about the track in Chicago, of potholes. I wonder if any of the drivers hit any of them. Alderman, we're getting those cleaned up, right, for July?
I was going to say, if I had to guess, these are some of the benefits of NASCAR, is that you get to fill some of those potholes.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for forcing our streets to get fixed up. How do the drivers like it? Is this interesting to them? Is this fun? Is this...
Yeah, I mean, the first time I saw, the layout was more probably on renderings and some social media posts that NASCAR had put together, and you're like, ooh, that's really narrow. That's how. Okay, cool. The Grant Park and the backdrop is amazing, but how's the track going to race? And you're pretty limited on what. So when we go to a race, right, we have tons of resources and data collection, and we have the ability to put the track into a simulator, or maybe actually come here, do a tire test with Goodyear, run laps. So you kind of know what you have when you get here. That was not the case the first time that we came here 3 years ago. So we were trying, to get the drivers up to speed, the team setups and everything, to come here and be prepared with a lot of unknowns. When we got here, the first thing that when I talked to the drivers, they love the layout. It has high speed, it has low speed, it has narrow sections, wide sections, and so it's challenging for the drivers. Forget about the wet conditions. That took the challenge another level, but just the track in itself is a very fun and flowy type of racetrack that our drivers love, and they love a good challenge, but they love a good passing zone and areas that also can allow them to race side by side, and the track has all of that. So yeah, I think that's why you haven't seen the course change. You know, it's been the same since year one because it puts on a great show and the drivers really enjoy it.
So they're not necessarily enjoying the skyline while they're back there
I
behind
don't know
that
how
wheel.
you're not distracted by it. You should be. Certainly makes for some amazing photos and you know, just iconic moments of our history in NASCAR and Hendrick, and so that's certainly another added value is that amazing backdrop.
Well, I'm glad you said the backdrop and the broadcast and the, you know, of course, what goes on here in this city is amazing. You know, some people get a little upset, you know, closing a street down or two. We're known for some festivals and having some fun around here. So the people that are here enjoy it. They have the fest, but what really is neat about this is the whole world can see this. Yeah. And it's a commercial for Chicago. Is it that much for you, for your team? What's the business behind that, the broadcast and the numbers behind what's out there, simulcasts around the country and probably beyond?
Yeah, I mean, the largest percentage of revenue that we have is through our sponsors and our partnerships. And so we cater to that first and foremost, but they don't come in and you know want to advertise on our race cars if it's not for the people at the venues, but primarily what's on TV. And we also get a piece of the TV revenue, which we're in the first year of our new TV partnership, a new 7-year deal that you know we got introduced to streaming races on Prime for the very first time. So it's been exciting. It's been new, and it's you know something that we all know is a big part of the future. But yeah, you know I think it's not only great for us as race teams to have a new venue, new backdrop, and something that's going to bring more interest and eyeballs to it. But on top of that, our partners are always looking for unique experiences and ways to cater to their customers or engage in the event. And there's no other experience out there that's like the one that you get here in Chicago. Literally, they can walk from their hotel right into the garage area. They have some of the finest restaurants and facilities to be entertained beyond the race, what happens on the racetrack, as well as unique viewing locations. And so it's a win-win 100% for all of us. And it's nice to know that it's a great way to expose this city to the viewers that are watching NASCAR as well.
So the drivers seem to enjoy it. The teams are liking it, and
the teams. I got to say, the first year they were all nervous, right? We're like, oh gosh, we're going to a big city. What's this going to be like? And and so after the first year, everybody's like, I love street courses. I love going to Chicago. So they absolutely can't wait to get here because. I mean, who doesn't love some good pizza, and who doesn't just love, the atmosphere that Chicago has, and of course they got a job to do. I don't want them to get too distracted, but this is a.
But feel free to keep going.
Yeah,
this is good.
It's a very popular race, is what I'm saying
right?
among all of us on the team side.
Great. Well, I'll say on behalf of Chicago, we love having you all too. So it's a win-win-win-win, right? Speaking of sponsorship, Donovan, could you stand up for a second? Look at this jacket.
Yeah.
We got some real fans here.
The power of NASCAR is right here in the room.
Donovan Pepper, one of our great business leaders.
What's amazing
Walgreens on there.
is that jacket's from 2001. So we produce these as merchandise, and that by the way, that jacket is now trending again. We've had to reproduce them because they're so popular. But you got the OG though. You got the OG.
So let's go back then to those years, those OG years. Give us a little intel. I mean, we've all seen the interviews. We've seen you've probably told most of the stories. Give us a couple of favorites. What you've driven with and against the best of the best. Maybe how about start here? Who was your favorite opponent? Who's your favorite? Who did you go up against? That was.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's an amazing docuseries on Prime right now called Earnhardt, and so everybody knows the name Earnhardt. And I look at my career and some of the key elements to what made my name or my brand or our race team excel in NASCAR, in its popularity, and you have to put Earnhardt in every one of those conversations. He was a legend, 7-time champion, and huge fan base, the Intimidator, all those things. And here comes this kid from California via Indiana to NASCAR in a rainbow-colored car, and not wearing cowboy boots and cowboy, or belt buckle, and just breaking some of the traditions. And little did I know that he and I would have the connection that we had, where the rivalry was real, but we also understood like the role we were each playing in it to garner more attention and fans and grow the sport. Probably him way more than me. I was just trying to win races and drive. I was a kid, But so I look back on that. Some of that's told in the docuseries, but his story and his upbringing, how he got to NASCAR, what he did in NASCAR, and obviously we lost him way too young, is an amazing story. So that would be probably the number one. Mark Martin was a guy that I got a chance to race against him early in my NASCAR career in the series below the Cup Series, and actually drove a car that he drove. And so he was a mentor for me and just a respectable driver, phenomenal race car driver, and a good person, and he taught me a lot. So I was always a big Mark Martin fan as well.
So you mentioned, this was a number of years ago. You were a kid, right? I mean, when you were 19.
I was 21, I think, my first year in Cup.
So, and I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but
just a handful of years ago.
Yeah. No one's doing the math here. It's happy hour. We're not doing math. But you really have been credited with bringing the next generation to racing, right? And bringing the next generation interested and making it a little more mainstream. I think a lot of that was because of your age. Was there anything else that you can point to that, in the context of, I mean, we talk about civic engagement, we talk about business, we talk about politics. We at City Club are really pushing to get the next generation involved, get them excited about different things. Sports is a big piece of it. What was behind your drive to get racing into the mainstream and get that next generation excited about it?
It's like anything else, right? It's a group effort. It's a team effort. There's a lot of things contributing to it. I was fortunate, at least with my team, to sort of be the face of it, but behind the scenes there were so many people that were making us successful on the racetrack that then led to opportunities off the racetrack. There were other young drivers too around that same time. Maybe they weren't having as much success, but they were contributing. And then the sport, NASCAR, the job that they were doing, going to new racetracks, Southern California and Texas and Kansas, here in Chicago and Joliet, and Indianapolis. And so there was a lot of just opportunities that seemed to be stacking up at the right time, certainly the right time for me. Hendrick Motorsports also was a team that was just on the verge of breaking through and becoming the powerhouse that they are today. But with that, right, going to some of these, I would say, winning the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Brickyard 400 in August of '94. That was a big moment for the sport, big moment for me. But what came along with that was the first time that I saw my face on a billboard, on a Chevrolet, advertisement. I was like, oh, that's a big deal. And then all of a sudden, you start getting recognized more and more. And then your sponsors are starting to use you in different ways in advertising. Pepsi wanted to make a Super Bowl commercial, and it just becomes kind of a steamroller at that point. It's just one thing leads to another, and then all of a sudden you're getting opportunities to go do a cameo on a TV show. David Letterman. Eventually, that led to me hosting SNL. So I think hosting SNL probably the single biggest, accomplishment off the racetrack that I ever achieved.
That's all. And I would argue that because of what you did and the age that you did it and the bringing it to that mainstream is really what led to bringing it here to Chicago. So again, thank you for that. Obviously I have a few questions of my own. I've got them somewhere, but I do want to engage. If anyone has a question, let me know, and I will hand the mic to you as long as you just don't make statements and maybe ask a question. So over the next few minutes, I'll do that. So please get thinking of your questions. We want to make this an engaging back and forth. We talked about young people. We talked about leadership. We talked about you as a driver. Now it's business for you, right? I mean, it's been. When was the last? I think you retired from driving in 2015. Is that right?
Well, yes, I retired in 15 full time, but there was a little stint there where I got called back because my teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr. Had an injury that he had to step out of the car for about 8 races, and I'll never forget. My wife is Belgian. We love Europe and getting back, seeing her family, or going to Europe when we can, and so the first year that I'm not racing full time, that I actually had a summer to go enjoy myself. I'm in the south of France, not thinking about racing at all. And I get a call from Rick Hendrick, and he says to me, he's like, "Hey, I know you're on vacation, but would you be able to race at Indianapolis next week?" And told me the situation. And in typical fashion, nobody could say no to Rick, and neither did I. And so I did come back in 2016. But basically, I've been out of the car, since 2015. And I went and did a stint with Fox Sports. I mean, so just a little quick. I'll try not to make this too long, but I was fortunate enough to win a few championships at Hendrick Motorsports in the 90s, and in 1999 was I call it awarded a lifetime contract with Hendrick Motorsports that also gave me equity in the team. Of course, Rick Hendrick's famous quote is, "Well, half of nothing is nothing." So, we can give you part of this race team that's not really a viable business. If you want it, go ahead. But it actually ended up working out okay because the sport grew.
You
but
don't need a taxi fare.
Yeah,
home, do you? All right.
yeah, right. And so I've always had a vested interest beyond just driving. When we were trying to get sponsors for my car, it impacted me financially, positive or negatively, if we didn't get those. When Jimmy Johnson, who's a 7-time champion, if you haven't heard of him, he came to Hendrick Motorsports, and I was able to be, have some equity in that. And again, same kind of concept. So I was always interested in looking at the financials, understanding them, but I wasn't in it on a day-to-day basis. When I stopped driving, I went did this stint with Fox Sports, wanted to learn more about the sport. I thought it'd be a good way to transition out of this adrenaline rush of driving a race car, and I can't just cut that off and not be a part of the sport at all. And it was a great transition. It was adrenaline. It was a team effort, very similar preparation going into every race broadcast that you would as a driver with your team. So it was perfect. But every year, you do half the year on TV because Fox Sports does half the year at that time, and NBC did the second half. And so second half was me working in a role similar to what I'm in at Hendrick Motorsports. And every year I did that, Rick would say to me, "Are you ready to stop doing the broadcasting? We need you here more." And I realized that one, I was learning a lot more about the sport by doing broadcasting that I think set me up to be better at the job that I'm doing now. But I also realized that I couldn't do both and do this job well. And so I did that for 5 or 6 years and had a blast. Made some great friends, learned a lot, and then moved into the current role, which is vice chairman of Hendrick Motorsports. I don't know if I truly knew what I was signing myself up for. It's a tall task. I love the challenge. The business is dynamic. It's changing weekly of what the challenges are from what's happening on the track, what's happening off the track, negotiations, as you know, I mentioned going into the TV network package that we have now, constantly trying to show the sponsors the value of the sponsor. We have B2B because we're an automotive group business as well, which is Rick Hendrick's primary business. So a lot of our sponsors tied to that. So just always trying to elevate the race teams, elevate the brand, stay relevant, grow the sport, bring new sponsors in. And yes, that challenges me. And it's exciting. I get to be a part of an organization that I help bring along and grow over the years. And it's family to me.
And I imagine that adrenaline rush probably dissipated a little bit. I mean, you're not behind a roaring engine. You're not on a daily basis.
Don't not closing a deal, man.
So no.
Closing a deal. Tomorrow I get the pleasure of going and announcing one of our newest sponsors, which we announced today in Form Energy. And so it's an Anheuser-Busch brand. And it's a big deal, and I'm super excited about it, and get to go to St. Louis from here and be a part of that. So I think people, especially our current drivers, lineup of drivers, they're like, Jeff, you can't possibly be liking this after being a driver. And I'm like, I tell them, I'm like, I love selling you every day. I'm selling you, and I think they think I'm joking with them, but I'm not. I actually do love it, and we have a lot to sell.
What does drive you? Like, what is it that gets you up and gets you excited? If for so many years it was getting behind that wheel, it sounds like it's got to be a little bit more now.
Well, especially when you've experienced the sport in the different eras that I have, right? I mean, I came into it at a time where it was just booming and growing and trending and all these things, and then we went through some financial.
You helped make it boom, grow, and all that. So I think you're being a little humble here.
Like I said, it was a team effort, but then we had financial crisis, if you want to call it that, right? I think we all were impacted in 2007-8, and it changed how sports marketing was advertising. We've gone through different TV contracts, different leadership at our the companies that we do business with, at NASCAR. So new car, new faces, all these things. And so I think what I love is that first of all, I started racing when I was 5.5, 6 years old. So to me, racing has been my entire life. It's the one thing that I know and the one thing that I'm just always attracted to and drawn to, and to me, I don't even consider it work because it's just a love and a passion. So whether I'm driving the car or whether I'm working with a team or working with the drivers or trying to find a new partner, I just love that I get to be a part of racing on a daily basis and get to look up to my mentor Rick Hendrick, who has taught me so much about life and business and racing. And just try to make him proud, like I tried to make my dad proud when I was racing cars. So it's I feel like it's a little bit more than I anticipated, as my wife reminds me constantly, because we're not going on those trips as much as she would like to south of France. But it has so many rewards, and it's an amazing to be a part of.
And take racing out completely. This may be difficult for you. This might be a tough question. Take racing out completely. What else drives you? What if you were not involved in the sport as of tomorrow? Because I know you. I mean, you're involved in other. You have a charity, right? You have a family. There's a lot more to this man, number 24, right here. Can you give us a little glimpse into that?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned. I'm a husband. We'll celebrate 18 years this year, which I'm really proud of that. My daughter is going to be 18, and we have a 14-year-old son, and we're getting ready for college soon, and getting ready for high school soon with my son. So obviously, being a father drives me. But a piece of that, I've had a foundation that supports pediatric cancer research since 1999. And so, we're constantly driven to raise more awareness, raise more funds for that. my probably proud dad moment is my daughter started on her own volunteering at the Children's Hospital that we support in Charlotte. So, to see how that has impacted her and driven her, like that's, those are things that help me get up in the morning and just want to be a better person and a better father and a better husband. But, it's always going to be somehow related to racing in one way or another.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. Okay, I was just going to say, does anybody have a question? I see three. So I'm going to go this way for a minute.
Yeah,
Excuse
sure,
me,
go for
and
it.
I'm going to share this mic. Hope our sound guys don't get mad at me.
Yeah, hi. It's very Oprah of you, Dan. Brian Johnson, CEO, Equality Illinois. Jeff, thanks so much for being here. It feels like the past 7 to 10 years have been such a dynamic time for the sport. You've got new races like Chicago or the Bank of America Roval 400. You've got streaming. You've got NASCAR Full Speed on Netflix.
We're going to Mexico City next week.
No, right, Mexico City, right. So how is the audience changing? And then what are the different pressures that you're seeing teams are needing to respond to with that changing audience?
Yeah, and so one of the things I probably missed that is a key aspect to we talked about some of the ebbs and flows of the sport, but one that's been the biggest challenge, and I didn't realize it at the time. NASCAR told me about this, and now I see it. But there was about a 5-year run there where we lost some of the biggest names and faces in our sport. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Carl Edwards, Mark Martin and Rusty Walsh. That's maybe a little bit further back, but household names. Jimmy Johnson, myself, Tony Stewart. I mean, a lot of guys that really were critical in those early 2000s that people resonated with. And when you have that many key figures in a sport step out that quickly, it's hard. You lose fans. Fans are like, well, if he's not out there, I'm not out there. I mean, I have people tell me this all the time. I stopped watching the day you stepped out of the car. I'm like, please don't do that. I promise you, we've got amazing young stars that you're going to enjoy. But so I think one key aspect going back to is that we've got to make these drivers household names and faces again, and it's harder today than it's ever been because look at all the things that we have access to, to entertain ourselves. I mean, the attention span is just minuscule, and so there was NASCAR capitalized on a time where it might have been kind of one of the primary things that you could watch on Sundays, and they did a great job showcasing the drivers at that time. I talked about the advertisers utilizing them. So the sport, what I see right now is we've got a lot of exciting momentum. There's a lot of great things that are happening that are all the things you mentioned, and then some, and that are getting more eyeballs on the sport, that are opening up more doors, that are getting our drivers well known. Some of them are. Don't get me wrong, they are. But we got to do better. And I think that the sport's putting on some of the. There's no competition when it comes to our on-track product. None. But we got to get people there to see them in person and on TV. And so I went to the Indy 500 a few weeks ago. Love that race. I mean, as a kid, those are my heroes, and we were a very fortunate second year in a row, unfortunate, to do the double where we one of our drivers in NASCAR was also competing in the Indy 500, and so to go to Indianapolis and you go into that airport when you land there. And you're at the Indy 500. I mean, every ticket counter is welcome race fans. There's an Indy car sitting there on the floor. You drive down the street, there's billboards. You go to the racetrack, and there's a museum. And it's just, on race days, 350,000 people that show up there. And so, to me, that comes, again, team effort, group effort. You know, NASCAR can't do it alone. Julie can't do it alone. The teams can't do it alone, and our sponsors can't do it alone. It takes everybody wanting to all work in the same direction, and I feel like that's what we had in the late 90s and early 2000s, is everybody saw the power and the value of it. And now it's really hard to get everybody to kind of get focused on the goal, because there's just so much going on. But that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. We've got amazing young personalities, great on-track product, new TV partners, new great venues, and I see that only continuing and seeing the sport continuing to trend in the positive direction it is right now.
Yeah, so I'm Robert Peters, a state senator, and also, interestingly, a diehard NASCAR fan. Kyle Larson doubled twice, didn't necessarily work out the way I think you guys would have wanted it. I think that was a big hit, both for IndyCar and NASCAR. I know you're from Indiana, so like the Indianapolis 500 is a huge and big deal. You guys have made it a little bit more difficult for someone to try to do the double in terms of if they miss something, they lose their points. But I'm guessing Larson's not going to run the double again.
Not with Hendrick Motorsports.
Not with Hendrick. Do you see, I mean, it's just such a huge spectacle. Do you see another driver trying to do the double? And do you see the benefit of trying to do the double for the sport?
I mean, no matter how it went, we had bad weather the first year, didn't have great weather the second year, didn't have a great race the second year, this particular year. So in that aspect, it's hard to look at it as, ooh, that was a success. But honestly, I look at as motorsports is concerned and the global reach that those two races have, and his doing that, not to mention Prime has done a documentary, or we filmed this whole thing. Might be the agony of defeat type of documentary, but it's going to be fascinating to see the journey and what it takes and all that goes into that and pulling that off, which is going to show how difficult it is. And it is very difficult. So there's very few drivers I think can do it, but there are a few out there. I could see somebody like a Kyle Busch maybe being interested. But I see Kyle Larson doing the Indy 500 again. I don't know if he's going to try to do the double again. I think even as ambitious as he is, as much racing as he does, logistically, there's literally like a 30-minute window that you have to complete one race and make it to the next.
Hi, Jack Lavin. I'm President and CEO of the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce. First, I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing NASCAR here. Julie Giese, we are a sports town, and you've added another sport to our town, and we're thrilled you're here.
Hey, thank you.
Tremendous economic impact after COVID, when we really needed that shot in the arm.
Well, I just want to say the real legend in the room and rock star is Julie Giese.
Absolutely, Julie Giese, right.
No, you guys have something really special there, and that's why this has been a success.
So I have two quick questions. The first one, this is a sport. What would you say is the prime of a race car driver? What age, what's the prime? And then my second question, I thought I just heard you say you started driving when you were 5.5 or 6. Please tell us a little bit of that background, too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's not a professional race car driver out there that is what I would consider a champion at the highest level that didn't start at probably 5 or 6 years old. It's just, that's when you have to get introduced and get experience at a very young age. So I got introduced through my parents, my stepfather and my mom. My dad was kind of a car guy, as a machinist, and liked cars and would fix people's car because he had a machine shop. And so I think probably in trade or something, maybe for something he did, a quarter midget, which is similar to a go-kart, ended up at our house and started a racing career. What was the other? Oh, the Prime. Yeah. I think it depends on when you get there. Like, I got there to the Cup Series at 21, and I would say my prime was, probably 30. I mean, I won some championships before that, but I felt like I was at my best physically, mentally, in 30 35. You know, like I think that is a really good spot for drivers because they know who they are, they have the experience, they have the confidence, know what they need in the race car and the race team. Others have seen what they do, and I just think that's a great age. Guys can do it earlier, but that's just my opinion.
What's going on, Jeff? My name is Andre Daniels. I'm the president of our Chicago Grammy chapter, as well as the regional director for a program called Guitars Over Guns. And I wanted to know, like, what songs did you listen to get you hyped up before the race?
Oh man, that's good. Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't have ear pods and things like that when yeah, no wireless headphones. But I mean, one of my go-tos was always, you know, Eminem. I just, you know, like Lose Yourself, right? When that starts, dun 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 dun, like there's just no way you can't get excited. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if there's a DJ in the room, but yeah, that was good. Listen, music is played a vital role in my life. You know, just listening to my parents and the type of music that they listen to, forms you, you know, as a kid, right? And my sister, I have a 4-year older sister, so she introduced me to, you know, Tom Jones and Michael Jackson and some things like that. So I have quite a diverse kind of array of music that I like and listen to. And then one artist kind of put me on the map in the hip-hop industry, which was Nelly, because he decided to say Jeff Gordon and the Black SS with the navigation. So I thank Nelly all the time. May have possibly requested that a few times in the club myself. But yeah, so you know, music I think it interacts with us in many ways. And during COVID, I decided that I want to learn how to DJ, so I do a little bit of that on the side too. Not in public.
Let me borrow your mic for a second, because on music, I just want to mention, you know, when NASCAR's the race is here this year, there will be concerts, right? And it's always a really neat way, because a lot of folks here live in the downtown area, in the South Loop area, and that's something that's really exciting to mention. I think they haven't announced yet who's coming, but oh, have you? Okay. There we go.
Yeah, Zach Brown Band. Yeah. And listen, Zach Brown's a dear friend of Mr. Hendricks, and we celebrated our 40th anniversary at Hendrick Motorsports last year, and he performed at our year-end event. And if you don't know Zach Brown, if you've never heard Zach Brown live, I absolutely am telling you need to do it, because this guy he's just a rock star. You know, like he can do any kind of music. He's super talented. His whole band, they can do all kinds of music, whether you've heard specific music that Zach does that's on one of his albums, he's gonna blow that out of the water, and then some when he's on stage. So that's gonna be the perfect artist for that Saturday night.
That'd be fun.
Jeff, nice to meet you earlier, and thank you for autographing my infamous jacket, my famous jacket here.
I was not going to miss you.
You weren't going to miss me. Again, Donovan Pepper with Walgreens. You know, first of all, as I shared with you earlier, you know, being a guy who was born and raised on the west side of Chicago, I didn't know what NASCAR was. I'll be very honest with you. I luckily had a friend who told me a little bit about it. He happened to invite me to my first NASCAR race, which happened to be the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte. And I bought this coat there in 2001. And it happened to be the same year that the double was successfully run by Tony Stewart. Yeah. Exactly. And I will say, first of all, when my friend asked me did I want to go, I was nervous, because I said, first of all, as a black man, am I going to see other black people? I'm not gonna. That was my first thing. I was joking with him, but I was serious. Am I going to be the only black guy in North Carolina, in Charlotte, at this NASCAR race? I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised. I was not. And I learned so much about the race, and it was so exciting to have, again, Tony Stewart, you know, doing the double that year. And it was exciting to watch the run-up and the build-up of what was happening in Indianapolis that day and to be there the whole day as they were making that round. So it was exciting to witness. And again, I've been a fan ever since, and I still wear this. My wife's tried to make me get rid of this for years. Obviously, I haven't. So
Don't ever get rid of that.
I won't. No,
Yeah.
you autographed it now. I won't. But my question, I just wanted to say, and again, as I was sharing my experience with it, and now I've been to multiple different races throughout the years, multiple different tracks across the country, and I have become a NASCAR fan. I didn't know Senator Peters was a NASCAR fan, so we'll have to talk about that. But with that said, I'm curious, because certainly we know that NASCAR over the years has done a great job with trying to engage more people from different communities and particularly minorities engaged. But particularly, Bubba Wallace has certainly, as an African-American driver, come on the scene. Suarez, from a Latino community has been, and you've had Juan Pablo Montoya back in the day, still doing things. I'm just curious about your thoughts about how NASCAR has been, in my mind, and particularly what's been happening here in Chicago, has been so successful in getting people from different communities who've never heard of NASCAR, never been engaged with NASCAR, to actually love this sport the way we have.
Yeah, and it's one of the many reasons why I love this particular event, because NASCAR has a bit of a stereotype, right? It's known, and yet when you go and experience it, it surpasses any of those. That it's far more diverse. I mean, I look at people that are working in the industry, people that work at Hendrick Motorsports, some of the greatest athletes in the world are on our pit crews, and there's a lot of diversity there. Our engineers are, we have female engineers that want to be a part of the sport, broadcasting, you name it, all kinds. So I'm happy to hear, that you had that experience, and that's what I love, though, where I get passionate, is that I want to tell that story more, and I want more people to come and experience it themselves, and don't, just think that of what maybe NASCAR is being something one-dimensional, because it's certainly not. The one thing I would say, what makes the challenge for us that's hard to grow the sport in that way is just, and I'll just throw this out there from a driver standpoint, and it could be a female driver, it could be a minority driver. The way you become a driver, just like I mentioned, you get introduced to it at a very young age, and it's hard to get, female drivers to become interested in it, to get introduced to it, and then find a path. I think the opportunities in the interest level is there. There's tons of partnership opportunities, and we've had some successful female drivers, but they just haven't quite gotten all the way over the hump of becoming a winning championship driver, and it only takes one. So I'm hoping that it happens. But the way that happens is you've got to get a large number of female drivers at a young age that become one of the top ones. You've got to get a large number of minority drivers that get introduced to it, they get the experience in order to get an elite at the top. And so it's a challenge, but it's one that I love, and it takes a team effort to pull that off. So that's just one example to me of what one of the challenges is, just letting people know NASCAR is an industry and a community that wants you to be a part of it, and is looking for everybody to be a part of it.
And I think we've got like one or two if we can keep it quick.
Jeff, hi, I'm John Simpson. We are tickled pink that you were in Chicago. Just thrilled. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
My question is, my daughter's 13. You and I talked about this. She's a huge F1 fan. She can name.
I am too, by the way.
Great.
Maybe not the same way that she is, because I think she's a Lando Norris. I like Lando for different reasons, but.
Well, she's got a massive crush on Lando Norris. I sent her your picture. She said you're a candidate.
You must have sent her a picture from the 90s.
So if you're looking for a 13-year-old fan, you got one. But my question is, what's F1 doing right that we're not? So they're international, they're glamorous, the merchandise is fabulously successful. What are they doing that Henry could look at and say, we should do that?
Well, I think it goes back to that what I was mentioning earlier. you've got Liberty Media who has looked at the business as how do we, bring all of our partners together and grow it and advertise it on a huge scale. I've been a big F1 fan for a long time, and I've gone to several F1 races, and before Liberty Media got involved, there was zero access. You couldn't come anywhere near a driver, get anywhere near a team. Everything was held, all the secrets very tightly, and it had a very stuffy kind of feeling to it. And even as a competitor, as a driver, like I drove an F1 car one time. It was just kind of an experience that I was fortunate to get to have. And then all of a sudden people start, ooh, hey, we need an American, we need Jeff Gordon in Formula One. And when I sat down with people, they didn't want an American in F1. Like they were like, there's an advertising opportunity here, but they didn't think I had the ability to drive the race car, whether that was true or not. So that has changed. I think Liberty Media, has really taken the team owners, the team principals, the drivers, and I don't know how they did it, but they got them together and said, listen, if we want to impact, especially America, we need to have more races there, and you guys need to have more access, and you need to show your personalities, and we need to advertise it, and we need to make a huge splash. And it's a concerted effort that they made to impact, because they know the advertising value that America has for them, right? And Netflix comes along, right, and does a show. They didn't have any clue that show was going to be good or going to take off the way it did, and the teams gave them a lot of access. And it was a huge success, and now they continue to get access and see the personalities and listen, that the thing that I find interesting that we probably need to do a better. We basically are a traveling carnival, right? 36, 38 weeks out of the year. We're all together, traveling as a group. All go to the next event. We park next to one another. Our cars are right next to one another. Our buses and and the drivers, heck, sometimes they're grilling out together. F1 is cutthroat. It is relentless. Like if you're not performing at a high level, you're out. You're done. And that's an interesting dynamic. The pressure that is on every person, whether you're an engineer, a driver, team principal, whatever it is. You're either in one day or you're out. And it kind of reminds me of like Hard Knocks, right? When you've got a player that's getting cut. And so I think that's created some more interest. So we need to get back to the rivalries, the Earnhardt-Gordon type things. And we need to get back to having drivers' faces on cereal boxes and in commercials for the Super Bowl. And I think that there's certainly the effort, is there. We just got to get all aligned and see if we can't pull that on, learn from it, and learn from them. I have no problems learning from what other people are doing well, and not being shy about it. They've done a great job. I'll put our product on track up against them any day of the week, though.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for coming out. Speaking of F1, they have DRS. Is NASCAR looking at any technologies or rules changes to kind of mix the races up as the first question?
Yeah.
Second question, how do you guys think about kind of the schedule mix? I love the short track racing, Martinsville, Bristol. How do you guys think about those? How you put together the schedule?
Yeah. Let me answer that part first, then you have to go back to the first one. But one of the other things I think is so amazing about NASCAR is the different racetracks, right? We're on a half-mile high bank track one week. We're on a road course the next. We're on a 2.5-mile oval. After that, we're on a flat 1 mile. I mean, it's crazy how what the teams and the drivers have to put themselves through, and we're 38 weeks out of the year that we're raced, 36 points race. So grueling schedule. So to me, the key is our playoffs and our championship race. I mean, Julie's the reason why Phoenix became the championship, race for so many years. And while I love Phoenix, I love the market and the track and everything that they do there. For growth, I think we need that to move around. The Daytona 500 is considered our Super Bowl, but let's be honest, the championship is where the champion is crowned, and that needs to go to different markets. That's what is going to draw more eyeballs and new fans. It also creates, I think, a different dynamic for who the champion is, because let's be honest, we've seen it. Drivers and teams will excel at one track. If you keep going back to that track, you might see similar results. And I think this can really bring a different dynamic to the challenges. But I do think in our playoffs, to your point, all those different tracks, you have to have them all covered. You can't just have one style. And I think it should be based on what markets we're going to and what's putting on the best racing. Weather is also dependent that time of year, so we have to be cognizant of that. I'm sorry, the first part. Oh, DRS. Oh man, I love talking about DRS and technology. I think you're going to see probably hybrid get introduced to NASCAR in the coming years. I think that I want it to be utilized as much for efficiencies as it is for on-track product, right? Like I want it to be sort of a push to pass, somewhat of a DRS. I've seen the DRS systems highly complicated. They're fascinating. So DRS, real quick, drag reduction system, which is on the rear wing of a Formula One car. It opens up and allows the car to go about 10, 15 miles per hour faster in a certain zone. And you have to get close enough to the car to get it activated. So I love everything about DRS. And I think that there's a way to get it to NASCAR. We probably have to do a little bit different since we have a spoiler, and we're going 200 miles per hour. So on an oval, I think it's very challenging to do, but on a road course, I can see it happening. But again, we don't have the problem that Formula One had. Formula One without DRS, they'll never pass. Not one single car will ever pass the other car, never. And if you've been watching F1 for a long time, you remember pre-DRS. DRS changed the game. But what happens a lot of times is is it true technology in the sport of it, or is it a gimmick? And they've done a great job getting past the gimmicky part of it, because we struggle sometimes with that. We have double file restarts. We have lucky dog rules and get somebody their lap back. And we get criticized a lot by the fans of, ooh, that's gimmicky. That's just for entertainment. Yeah. That's what we're out there to do. People don't tune in if we're not entertaining. But so I do think that there's some version of the NASCAR DRS system that I think needs to happen. And I got to be careful when I say this, because it comes at a cost to the team. So it's very hard to implement new ideas without it being very tough financially and fit in our already tight budgets. But I'm in favor of it because I do think it makes the product better.
Okay, promised. I'm going to turn this back on. Real quick, Tom, if you don't.
Thank you. Dan, this is my favorite City Club event in many years. And Jeff, thank you.
You're a little bit
so
biased.
Jeff, thank you so much for coming out. I just want to know, what was the precise moment where you said, I'm really good at this. I think I could be a pro. And then I'd also like to know, mentally and physically, what's the difference between a champion and a non-champion racer, and physical and mental preparation?
Well, this might go together in both of your questions, because to me, I was never good enough. Every race, I needed to learn something new. I needed to improve. I needed to get better and go faster. So, yeah, there was a moment where I was like, okay, I actually can win races, at this level. Every time you move up to the next level, you're like, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm good enough. and then something good happens. You go, okay, I'm good enough, but I'm still not as good as I want to be. And if I get content, somebody's coming right around the corner and going to remind me that I'm not good enough. And so to me, that's what champions do. Champions just constantly elevate and push themselves, the team, everybody around them. And my goal was every weekend that I was in the race car was don't be the weak link. And there were times I was, but by me having that mentality and attitude, that was the same for every person on the team. Nobody wanted to be the weak link. And if you missed a pit stop or a lug nut on a pit stop, you were the weak link that day, well, you got to get it right the next time. If I missed a shift on a restart, then I was the weak link. But I think our common goal was just for all of us to never be the weak link, and I think it just made us a better, stronger team and just more accountable towards one another, and we supported one another. Because if you were the weak link, we didn't point fingers at you. We already knew. We picked you up and supported you and said, hey, let's go get them in the next stop. Let's go get them in the next race. Let's go get them on the next restart.
That's inspiring, and we could do this all night, right? But it reminds me, when you famously were asked when you were 19 how you wanted to be known. You're 19 years old, and you're talking about how you want to be known for generations. And I think you answered by saying, I want to be a Winston Cup, which now, NASCAR Cup. Like, I want to be one of those guys. I want to be someone that could win that, right? So you got 4 of those. You've been on every cereal box that we've all been able to eat. You've been on Saturday Night Live. You've been on The Regis Show. You're at City Club of Chicago.
Highlight.
I would say that you've arrived. Now,
Finally, after all these years, I've been trying hard. I finally made it.
so let me ask though, and this we can just close out with this. Would you revise your answer? You were 19 when I forget who the reporter was, asked you that on one of your buses, and would you revise that now? How do you want to be known? Because you're pretty well known. You're a 1-number guy, 24. How do you want to be known? Let's call it 30 years from now when your kids have kids.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to revise it necessarily. Maybe, just add some more bullet points to it. Because, listen, being recognized as a Daytona 500 winner or a 4-time NASCAR champion, that never gets old. And so I'm very proud of that. But I will say with what I'm doing, and I always want to elevate. I always want to challenge myself, take it to the next level. So, right now being in a leadership role on the business side of the race team, I want to be known as a great businessman and a great leader within our organization. And I'm never going to be content. I'm never going to stop, but I'm loving what I'm doing. There's tons of growth with our organization, the sport, and I'm just full steam ahead on trying to achieve that goal.
Well, it's been
They
inspiring.
don't give a trophy for it, by the way. I'm just there's no award. It's just you try to earn the respect of the folks that you work with and try to make a successful organization. I'm already in a good position because it's already a successful organization. So just don't screw it up.
Well, I think you've made your mark. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in Chicago. Thank you for supporting NASCAR's expansion here into Chicago. We hope there's so much more to come, and there is so much more to come here at City Club. If you're not a member, or if you're here as a guest of NASCAR or of us, please sign up. We have more. It's not all Jeff Gordon, I'll tell you that much, but we do have some incredible programs. And a very wide diversity of programs. So really an honor to have you here tonight, Jeff, at Il Culicino, here at City Club of Chicago.
My pleasure, my honor. Thank you.
And you are welcome back anytime. So.
We'll see you July 5th and 6th.